Hello, everyone. Welcome again to our next rev of Facebook Live talks that are focused on AI. Today is a special day. We in the US got a new president, so I would say three things: dream big, dream bold, be bold, and love. This was the overall theme of the inauguration that happened earlier today of the new president in the US. With that, today our talk is on company success. So I believe there should be questions around artificial intelligence at the cross section of company success. So how a company could succeed, especially in the area of artificial intelligence, and in general about company success. And here, when you're talking about companies, I believe the question much more is on startup company success or companies that are in the early stage as opposed to on the late stage, because those two sets of questions tends to be a little bit different. With that, let me first give a very quick introduction about the rates of some of the statistics around startups. So more than half the startups fail within the first year, and in the year to follow, another half of what's left will fail because of issues with founders and so forth. And then after that, I would say the success rate of startups exponentially decrease even further. So I would suspect that more than 95% of the startups fail within the first 1 to 2 years, and after that, it's a little bit lower, but it becomes greater and greater as the company progresses, as it gets more people, as it gets investors, as it gets traction, as it builds product. And these things to some extent are same across consumer and enterprise, although the product life cycle tends to be different. Okay, let's take some questions. So the first question is, what are your go-to approaches to find investors as a CEO during the pandemic? In the beginning of 2020, it was a little bit unclear how the investor community will react when it comes to finding investments. And I will give the answer in context of an AI company. And just to make sure that we all know what an AI startup or AI company is, because a lot of the news media and a lot of the founders, co-founders, and CEOs are misrepresenting what exactly is AI startup. Just using artificial intelligence in a product where AI is just an enabler doesn't make it an AI startup. It's just like saying that my company runs in the cloud, or my company uses internet, or my company uses electricity. That's not an AI startup. When we're talking about AI startup, and Skive is one of the very few of them, we're really trying to revitalize how artificial intelligence, machine learning, and in our case, really deep learning works on the edge. So that's what we're really talking about. It's usually we are talking about either on the consumer or the enterprise side, but it's core AI driven, or the core technology is artificial intelligence. With that, let's focus on the first questions about finding investors. In the beginning of 2020, it was a little bit unclear how will investors react. And the questions investor had in mind was, okay, we could invest in companies, but how will we do diligence on the founders? How will we talk to founders? And then as the Q2 of Q3 in 2020, and that's the case even now in calendar year Q1 of 2021, everyone has realized that, man, this is actually even easier. I don't have to book that flight ticket. I don't have to book the hotel room. And if I like a founder or the CEO, I could call him to have another call tomorrow or right after through Zoom or through Google Hangout. I don't have to wait. So the whole process has accelerated. And investors have also figured out a way to do diligence. And they want you to see, they always wanted you they always wanted you to show them the authentic you as the founder and CEO, because success of a company, believe it or not, hinges upon the founders or the founder, and to some extent the CEO of the company. And I think that's why it's very important for the investor to see the CEO and the founder in person, or be much more close to him or her. And this was harder in the past, but now it's easier. You could actually have a video call and you know exactly what that person is as a founder and CEO, not just in his professional life, but in her personal life as well, because you'll be taking the call from your living room, from your house, from a park. So that's what the best approach is as well when you're on a call with an investor, where when it's actually easier these days, show your authentic self as the CEO. You don't have to have a fancy background. It's okay to have your kids. It's okay to be in your living room having a cup of coffee. Show them who you are as a person, and obviously prepare your pitch well. And be prepared that you may get the call in the next hour, or you may get the invitation to do another call tomorrow. And to have a good call, you do need proper, robust internet connection. With that, I will take the second question, and the second question relates to how do you connect with partners for a startup during the pandemic? I think of investors as also partners. Yes, they are partners when it comes to advice, they are partners when it comes to the funds, but they're still partners. So the approach you take to engage with investors is actually the same as the approach you take with interacting and engaging with partners. As with the investors, it was harder pre-2020 because you need to go to a conference, meet with them. Now it's easier. You could meet them anywhere. You could be in Hawaii, you could be in San Francisco, that's where I am, and you could be meeting with them. But at the same time, just like you did homework on the investor side to know what do they invest in, what do they need, you need to do the homework here on the partner side as well. You figure out which is the best partner, who's the right person in this partner. Do I know anyone? Or do I know someone who knows somebody in that partner or in that company? Because ultimately you're doing business with people. That's who you do business with. And if you have not done your homework, you don't know that person, it's hard to do business. To some extent, it was easier in the past because you would go to a conference, you will exchange business card, you will meet over a cup of coffee with a partner or even an investor, and then you will actually do it multiple times. But now it's a little bit harder. So as the CEO and the founder, you do need to be proactive. You do need to show enthusiasm. You do need to learn what they're doing, how they're doing, what online conferences do they go to. Connect with them on LinkedIn, connect with them on Facebook. Our next question is, how do you think the working culture will change after the pandemic in the AI industry? Folks, so not to let you down, pandemic is going nowhere. It is here to stay. The cat is out of the cage, and there is no stopping. We'll catch one cat, but we'll know pretty soon that there's another cat. So we should assume going as we go into 2021 that the pandemic will be there. There is no going back to the normal where you're flying everywhere, or you are on a big road trip every summer, or you're going to big conferences. That's not really going to happen. And the work culture has actually improved because of all the factors. Now you could be working, if you're smart, if you're in need, you could be working from anywhere. And the same is for employers as well, that they're now not limited to boundaries. But the most important piece as an employer, and on Skive side, we are indeed hiring in every area, from business development to marketing to engineering to hardware engineering to aerospace to healthcare. In all of these, the most important piece is trust. How can you build trust? And that trust aspect becomes so much even more important when you're working remotely. Skill is something that could be built and developed over time. And employers are okay with that, or at least that's how I think when I hire somebody. My criteria is, can I trust this person? Second is, are they smart? And if these two things are met, rest of the things are secondary, because you could really help build up skills, and building up skill nowadays because of the remote work culture, because of everything being remote, is even easier. For example, Coursera or Khan Academy are two good resources, and there's lots of open courseware from MIT and Stanford that you can do as well. The important piece is that trust aspect, and that takes time to build. So that's what we do at Skive on the work culture as well, where we try to get people on board who we can actually trust, who have a great culture of working collaboratively. Specifically on the AI side, this becomes even more important, because if we are really talking about the AI industry, where you're building something really unique as opposed to something that everyone is doing, you want to get people, first of all, who are smart, and secondly, I will say that word again, who are trustable, because you're building something that's unique and novel, that has an IP associated with that, and that's what becomes important. And it doesn't matter which area in the company you're working on. You could be working in marketing, you could be working on the business side, you could be working on design side, you could be working on engineering. All across, it's one and the same thing. That how can you really trust that person? How can you build that trust? And that's what has changed in the work culture, and that will continue for AI specifically, or for AI companies, or companies which is very much focused on building the coolest artificial intelligence for the next 5 to 10 years, which is not what we are doing today. Trust will even become more important, and geography is not a boundary. So you can hire the best possible people anywhere in the world and build that AI team. So just to summarize what I said about building a successful startup, you need to first of all make sure that you're hiring team A players, not team B players, the smartest possible people you can actually get. And secondly, people who are really passionate about your vision, and to some extent the culture as well. But vision is the most important piece, because startups goes up and down. Startups are not magic. It's also not the easiest way to make money. If you want to make money, you probably may want to rob a bank, which I will actually not recommend. You may probably also not want to try to win a lottery, because I will also not recommend that. It's really, really hard to win a lottery. The odds are against you. What I will really recommend is to work in a successful startup or in a successful company and follow the vision. And the second and the third thing after passion is your team. You need to have the right set of people who are smart and who are across the area, from engineering to design to marketing and business development, and not just everyone experienced. You need everything, from people who are new, who may not have a lot of experience, because they are the one who will get you some interesting new ideas that you may not have thought about, as well as people who are really experienced, who know how to scale the company, who know some of the coding best practices, for example, and can actually teach the people who may not have some experience in that. And that's the secret sauce of the company. And obviously, to make all that happen, It's a little bit easier if you have the funding, and that's where being as a founder and CEO, you need to be proactive about reaching out to investors. But there too, investor is a partner. If you don't have the right partner, you will fail. That's why it's super important to be selective when picking up that partner, which is an investor. To some extent, looking for an investor or looking for a commercial partner is to some extent like dating. So if you're not talking to the right person or you get hooked to the wrong person, you're doomed. That's how a startup is. A startup is kind of like your second wife or your girlfriend. So pick the right one. I will see you next time. Again, we are hiring, and please feel free to reach out to any one of us if you like to know more. Thanks.